So I have started recording, and if you have some questions about your assignment or the response you received, um, kindly drop it in the question and answer channel. And if you feel like your case is more personal to you and it's not necessarily something you want an audience for, then send me a DM. Again, um, if you feel like your case is too personal and it's not something you want to an audience for, you don't want to do it in the general channel, send me a DM and I'll respond to you. And let's all keep it respectful and you know official. So today we are the topic for today is introduction to UX design as a product manager. So I believe what we'll be discussing will be basically things that you need to understand about design. Because remember, from everything we've talked about, something that you will encounter a lot will be the designers that you will be working with, right? And there are things you need to be aware of to be able to have certain conversations and attend to certain problems related to design and or to the product design team in general. So part of what we'll be discussing today is introduction to UI UX design. I believe everybody knows what UI UX is: user interface, user experience design. That's what it is. The I is interface, X is experience. Just like we have CX team, it's customer experience. So X is always experience. So user interface, user experience design. Um, Importance and UI design tools, user research methods versus feature driven development, user research methods for product managers, building user persona, metrics for measuring user experience, communicating UX to stakeholders. So today we have 28 pages to discuss. Hopefully, I would not need a break. But if at some point I feel like I've been speaking for too long, I would take a break for myself. And I would do that because when you've listened to someone for so long, you start losing your ability to assimilate information or comprehend whatever is being given to you. So you might need to take your eyes off your screens and just refresh and come back in about 5 minutes or less. So let's get into it. Introduction to UI UX design. UI, which means user interaction or interface, and UX, which means user experience, is a discipline of product development that entails the process of researching and designing the user interaction on the product. Okay. So, um, well, let's continue. I'll circle back to it. UI covers the visual elements of the design process that the user will interact with, such as designing the buttons, the icons, typography, and other visual elements that make up the screens which will form the user experience on the product. UX refers to the entire interaction a user will have with the product. Okay, so basically, to understand what UI is and what UX is, UI is the physical, is it really physical? Yeah, in a sense, physical or visual representation of how the users interact with your product. So when we say features that we are building and all that, The only way the users are able to interact with the features is the design that they see. The only way the users are able to click on sign in or sign up or log out are the designs that have been made available to them. So they are buttons, they are icons, they are the typing. These are the things that represent everything that you've done back end, right? All the coding that happens back end. The only way that your user interacts with those things will be the designs that are present, like when they open their screen, be it on their mobile device or on their laptops. Um, the visual elements are the things that facilitate the interaction between the user and your product, right? But then the experience will be what it feels like to use your product, right? What it feels like to interact with your product. Does it make it easier to, say, process payments with your product? Does it make it easier to sign up for healthcare services with your product? That's what the experience is for them. So the UI, the interaction, the interface is more of a physical thing. And I'm not saying physical like in the sense of something tangible. Tangible is something you can touch and hold and feel, right? But I'm saying physical in the sense that it exists and they can see it, right? Like it's something that they can click on or something that they can, you know, hover over with their keyboard or their cursor, and then it gets highlighted or it doesn't highlight or something like that. It's something they interact with, right? That's the UI. Um, and then the UX is what it feels like, the experience, what it feels like to use your product, what the satisfaction or the dissatisfaction or the excitement or the ease with which or difficulty or user friendliness will be the experience for your user. That's the main that's what the difference will be. But so the whole concept of design is a collection of like it basically the goal is to create um a pristine user interaction and then a pristine user experience. That is why it's a UI UX design, right? So a good UI UX design results in a product experience that delights users. It also ensures that a product properly caters to its target users. For example, if an app has pretty screens, good UI, but the colors used on the buttons and the text are conflicting so much that the users are unable to take action, bad UX, which means that the products will be unable to properly deliver value to the users, resulting in failure. Okay, so this example is, um, let's say, with a healthcare app, yeah, um, we have we have a very pretty screen. One of the colors for healthcare workers that I know is kind of popular is blue. I think, especially if you're talking about pediatrics, like if you're a parent, there's baby blue and then there's pink. But I think pink is more of a maternity color, but that's besides the point. So you create a very beautiful design that for like a healthcare product, and we have pink, we have blue, right? And I'm actually in the session where you say the pediatrics, right? Register your word, register your children for monthly checkup, something like that on the app, and you make the colors blue and pink, baby blue and pink, and then where you have the pink colors, you now it looks very beautiful to look at, right? It looks very beautiful to behold. Um, and that works for user interaction. But then when it comes to the buttons that I'm supposed to click, so in the where you have the pink color, you go and include a pink writing where I am supposed to click on, and where like if I'm supposed to click on something, if it's supposed to say sign in, and I can't see that because it's pink and then there is pink lettering or is a yellow lettering that just melts into the background of the color. So I can't see what the instruction is. There's no way for me to know that I'm supposed to click on this to sign in. Then that creates for a bad experience for me because then I might have to write the customer experience team and say, I can't see this on the app. I'm not able to do this. Meanwhile, it is there. So when what you are selling is um, healthcare services on the go, right? Which is what healthcare mobile apps are supposed to be. Healthcare services on the go. It is not if I have to call or to call your team or your customer experience team for help with something as simple as that. It is no longer healthcare services on the go, right? It ruins the experience of having instant responses for me or instant services for me. So that's the bad experience from for me as a user. So let's move on. A well-designed user journey is one in which users are able to intuitively understand and experience the inherent benefits of your product without experiencing any difficulty. Just like what I said. So if you create something and it's appealing to the eyes, right? And beyond being appealing, I am able to experience your product and get the um get the inherent, like when we say inherent we mean the default benefit, right? The expected benefit, like the problem you said your product solves. I should be able to gain like that solution but just by automatically doing things or receiving results from things I'm supposed to do without having to reach out to anybody or make a complaint and all of that. So the minute I have to start making complaints and having to call the customer service or customer experience and um, waiting for feedback, it starts to deride or to derail from the benefit, the inherent benefit I was supposed to receive from using your product. So it messes with the experience I'm supposed to have. So again, a well designed user journey is one in which users are able to intuitively understand. It gives immediate understanding or just simplistic understanding of your product, of its design, of its functionality, and its performance. And then the experience should be such a default thing that I don't need to do any extra thing to be able to benefit or to get the inherent benefits associated with your product, also known as the solution that your product supposedly offers, right? That's the whole point of a good UI UX design. At big tech companies, the UI UX discipline is split into product designers who cover the user interaction, designing the visual elements um, and aspects, and user researchers who cover the user experience function. Sometimes, however, the role of a product manager intersects with that of a researcher, where a product manager might find themselves conducting user experience functions in collaboration with a product designer. So the the thing is that for big, like very big firms, right, or very big tech companies, you usually will have your designers. Mind you, like people don't usually say product designers in food or like once you're talking about like an already existing tech firm, it's assumed that when you say designer, everybody expects that you're talking about the product designers, right? Who else could you be talking about? But then within the designing team, right? Or the UI UX. Okay, what is called is the UI UX team, maybe. There is supposed to be a user researcher, like a researcher, someone that researches on users and provides information on the best way to create the best user experience, right? This is supposed to be a separate responsibility for someone. And then the designing in itself is supposed to be a separate responsibility as well. Most startups do not have the capital to hire someone for each of these. Even there are some other roles that when you start talking about them in the future, you'll find out that it seems you find out that it you find out that it seems can anybody hear me? Can you still hear me, Joshua?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Um you find out that it seems that um a lot of roles are combined, right? Like a lot of roles are not separated the way that they should, especially like a very big example is this UI UX discipline or UI UX team. For most firms, they won't separate user researcher and a product designer. And guess who the responsibility of user research falls on? A product manager. It's not going to fall on your designers. It will fall on you. It will fall on you to understand your users and carry out extensive research on their personas and how to create the best experience for them through design, right? Mind you, you don't design, but you're supposed to understand designing to an extent that you know how to apply it in creating the best experience for your users. That's basically what it is. But for big firms, you most likely will have these responsibilities separated. But for startups, very less likely that you would have a user researcher separate from a product manager and also separate from the designers, the product designers. But it's just making it clear here that a user researcher is supposed to be a part of the UI UX team. That's basically what it is. That is supposed to be a part of it. Whomever is the user researcher is supposed to be a separate person from the product manager and a separate person from the product designer. Usually, that's what it should be. But things don't always work out like that, which is why when you're studying to get into the role of a product manager, this would always be a topic that you will be taught, just so you are not lost when you're trying to perform in the role of a user researcher. So it says here at startup, product managers work in collaboration with product designers to ensure that requirements are accurately translated from the PRD to design screens and that the finished product aligns with user needs. I remember when we talked about studying the user needs and empathizing with the users, putting yourself in the shoes of the users and understanding user personas, and then using that to understand user needs and create requirements for your product. Part of that requirement will be what the design would look like, right? What the design, the elements of the design should look like, who it should appeal to, and all that. When a product designer has completed designing screens for the product, the product manager will review the screens to ensure alignment, right? So in your journey, you will find that every time something is created for your product, it has to run through you for approval, right? If a designer, like if you've requested a particular feature and a designer has created something for you, they would show you for your approval. When you say, yeah, I am pleased with this, and it's not about you. Like when being able to sign off on a new design has nothing to do with you, then more to do with your user needs, which is something you get to understand from your user research that we talked about earlier. Importance of a good UX design. It reduces the chances of product failure. Okay. A bad UX can lead to the inevitable failure of a product. If a user is unable to navigate or understand how to unlock the benefits of your product, then the chances that you will retain them is very slim, which can ultimately lead to failure. Remember that remember that every UI you are creating Your goal is to provide an adequate and easy experience for your user, right? If that is the case, and instead of having a good experience, what your user is experiencing is inability to access certain things, certain features, certain features that you promised or that your product promised during the marketing stage, right? You said is a fintech app. I am supposed to be able, and then you promise that I can exchange, um, for example, my dollar for naira or something like that. And then when it's time to do that, I find out that the buttons don't work and the icons are static. I can't click on them, and when I hover over them, like nothing is happening. So it means I can't actually perform the function or the operation that you promised. So now I'm struggling instead of having like an easy experience. What do you think will happen in that situation? I would immediately dump your product and go look for another fintech app that promises dollar exchange and they deliver. So first of all, if I try it on my own and it doesn't work, I'll most likely end up asking a friend, and then a friend will tell me, "Oh, I don't use those ones. I've heard that they do that. Their app is this and that. I use this one," and then I go over to your competition. And then imagine if 5 people do that in a week, and you lose 5 people in a week, and you continue to lose people as days, weeks go by, and then months go by. It's just at the end of the day, what it will lead to is a failed product. So the user research, the user experience, the user interface conversation is such an important aspect of product management. A good UX design removes friction. The ability to clearly translate ideas conceptualized on the PRD to delightful experience which prioritizes users' needs while communicating value in is dependent on a good UX design. Okay. Okay. So first of all, your design is supposed to prioritize user needs, right? It's supposed to put user needs ahead of anything else. And that is the whole point of functionality or performance. How do we judge the performance of a product? Is that will be judged based on how well it solves the problem that it promises to solve, how well it satisfies user needs, right? That's the whole point. So the user needs is usually gotten from the PRD, your product requirement document. You use the user need to create your requirements or to understand what your requirements are. And then from there, you create your PRD. So if we have created a PRD to suit user needs, right? It's very important that the design that will be created from the PRD would represent the user needs for which those requirements were created, and that it prioritizes it over anything else. It is prioritized over, say, immediate profit or immediate satisfaction, right? Um, if you meet like a startup that already has a few signed on customers and one person or 2 people are asking two business, let's say it's a B2B business, 2 people are asking for a particular feature, but in a larger scale, from your user research, you've understood that your users, the larger group of your users, would need something opposite, right? You're not going to go and chase the income that you will get from those 2 people immediately by them signing up and maybe paying, for example, 500,000 for their sign up. I'm giving an example, and you want to chase that money and add that like to your features or to part of what will be on your product, while ignoring what you've gotten from your user research. And instead of prioritizing the main user needs, you're going to try to chase a particular immediate satisfaction. It doesn't work that way. So if the design is unable to effectively translate the requirements defined on the PRD, then the final screens delivered for the product will not meet user needs, obviously. Number three, it covers all the customer points. Touch points are key points on your product which customers will experience in the course of interacting with your product as they move along. So remember, we've talked about touch points, or we've touched on touch points as an aspect of product management or understanding user needs before. So it says here that there are key points on your product which customers will experience in the course of interacting with your product as they move along their customer journey. Customer journey is a series of steps which a customer will take to interact with your products before they become converted customers. For example, if we open something like Kuda or say OPay, we open an OPay account, like you're trying to open an OPay account, and you open the app, you download the app, and the first thing you see is sign up or you have an account. Those are touch points, like those are important touch points that you get to experience before you are finally converted to a full customer. So we have the sign up and we have the form that you will fill, the quick form that you will fill. And then after the filling the form, the next thing will be maybe to register your or to record your face movements, your facial movements to ensure that you are human, right? And then the next thing will be to upload an ID. Those are touch points that you will be interacting with as a user. Then the customer journey is a series of steps. Okay. Your customer journey are a series of steps that you would take to interact with your products before. I'm sorry, what I call the touch points before is your customer journey, basically, like the journey it takes for you to become a customer, the different things you would do to become a customer. Then your touch points are the key points on your product which customers will experience, right? If you say signing up is a key point. For another example is log out is an example. Transfer is an example. Add family member, for example, in your health add a dependent is a touch point. So all those important things or significant turns that you would take while interacting with a product are your touch points, whereas your customer journey are just those things that you have to do to get on board as a customer or a recurring customer, maybe will be your customer journey. A customer journey covers 5 stages. The first one is awareness, second one consideration, third one purchase, fourth one retention, and fifth one advocacy. Why the customer journey is more a marketing concept. Some aspects of customer journey is achieved using the product. Hence, a good UX design can serve to optimize the customer experience at every touch point until they become converted and loyal customers. So it's saying here that the whole concept of a customer journey and touch points are like actually marketing concepts, but I'm giving the way that user experience can be used to further the goal or achieve the goal of a product, which is also something that marketing does for you. It's easy to apply these things in making good decisions about the UX design, basically. Um, it makes tracking product analytics easier. Product analytics is simply the tracking of metrics or data. The tracking of metrics or data relevant to the success of the product. The point is connected. This point is connected to the one previously mentioned. Tracking Tracking user behavior on the product is easier to monitor when the UX design properly covers all the necessary customer touch points. Hence, if the design does not properly cater to the ideal customer journey along the product, then it will be difficult to monitor customer behavior and track the right metrics. Mind you, when you are creating features, it needs to cover everything that you might need to track, like where you know how we've already mentioned customer journey track, like an understanding of the customer journey and what is needed to make that experience good. It's also important to understand that something to consider when trying to cover all bases is that when it's time to start tracking your customer behavior, what you will use is also the data that you have um, is also the data that you have collected from all the touch points that you ensure to cover, right? So if you don't cover all the necessary touch points, some you'll be lacking in some data that you are trying to collect. So your good UX design helps you cover everything that you might need in the future or that will most likely fall into what you need for your data analytics or data collection. Um, UI design tools, Figma. I do believe some people I do believe some people would have heard about Figma by now. Um, should we do a demo on Figma just so you guys see? Maybe not today, maybe before our class too. Just so you guys see Figma. I think Figma is the most popular UI design tool. Um, just give me a second. Okay. Um, I think we might be able to take a look to tomorrow before our class at Figma. I do hope my account is still my personal account with it is still functional, so I can use that. Mm, okay, Figma is a browser-based. Figma is a browser-based interface tool. They also have a mobile application. First, like most tools that we get to experience through your product management journey, most of them have both browser app and mobile apps. It's a browser-based interface tool that empowers fast design and collaboration work. This tool is usually the go-to tool for most product teams. It has a free plan for individuals and a paid plan option. So when you're trying to familiarize yourself with these tools, it's important to just create an account and take a look at it. But usually, when you get into a team, like you start working with a team, they would have, their own tools that you sign into with the email address provided by your company or by your firm. So one of the things that is so great about Figma is how interactive you can be with Figma. It fosters collaboration between teams. So usually when something is created for you on Figma, you can be tagged on it. You can be I think there is an integration between Figma and Slack as well. I don't remember for sure. I'm not sure. But you can be tagged on it. You can be addressed on it. Like if you design something, if there are five designers can work on one thing on Figma. Like it's one page, that particular design, that particular screen. It could be a mobile screen. It could be like a mobile screen or a browser screen that we are working on. Every designer working on it, and every even non-designer, like if there are two product managers on that particular project, or if there are um, some engineers, like the front end engineers, most likely would also be able to comment, tag whomever is concerned with it, make suggestions, make comments on it. That's the beauty of Figma. That I think that is kind of what makes it stand out. I I think how interactive it is, or how much it fosters collaboration between teams. Sketch. The limitations with Sketch is that it is only compatible with Mac operating system. It has a free trial and a paid trial. Okay. Okay. I think this kind of covers what I was saying. Figma has been created in such a way that it is adaptive to all operating systems, or maybe all operating systems that I am aware of. But with Sketch, it only works with Mac operating systems. So if you have anything that is not Mac, you can use Sketch. That's the disadvantage for it. And I don't know how interactive. I don't know the extent of its interaction. I've seen a few screens from Sketch, but I've never fully used it for a team before. Also considering that most teams or most tech firms in Nigeria do not have the capacity to purchase MacBooks for everybody on their team. Um, and by that I mean you could have two product designers, you could have four developers, and then you could have um, two product managers as well. So imagine being a startup and having to buy MacBook for everybody that I have just listed, and then imagine people that have even much more than that. Um, People like Money Points would have at least 400 staff, and the product team would be at least 10 people in the product team. That is at the minimum. So imagine attempting to buy 10 MacBooks for the development team, and then considering the fact that the development team, like the product development team, will continue to grow. Just as your product grows, your product development team will continue to grow. So imagine having 20 people on the development team, or 30 people for the different products or the different services you render, and then having to buy MacBook for them just because you need to use Sketch. So that's a limitation for Sketch, but I don't think they're worried about people that don't use MacBook. Anyways, we are probably too poor for them, so that doesn't matter. So there is Adobe XD. It's part of the Adobe Creation Cloud Suite tools. So remember, Adobe has its own suite. It has Sign, Fill and Sign. It has PDF Reader. It has there's some other things. Adobe has a lot of things in its suite, and one of them is Adobe XD, and it is compatible with both Mac and Windows operating system, and it has free trial and a paid trial as well. FeedJam is a tool that is more suited for brainstorming, collaborating within teams. However, it can also be used to map flowcharts and customer journey mapping. So outside of when you're trying to create your customer journey and you're trying to map user needs, like, usually when we make a document, like the product requirement document is usually tied to the user journey map that you create, all those flow charts, maps, um, trying to create an understanding of the flow of use for users. You usually do that through FeedJam, and with that you're also able to do some brainstorming, and a little bit of collaboration as well, that helps you brainstorm as a team. It's much more efficient for those side quests that you get to, or that you need to accomplish while working on your product. User research and feature driven development. User research, also known as user experience research, aims at knowing what users want and need, how consumers interact with a product or service. The means by which researchers can do this can be either qualitative or quantitative. User research methods are the means used to get information about customers' expectations. Remember when we talked about user research, the qualitative and quantitative, right? And then we talked about the tools for carrying out a good user research. We talked about doing a survey, interviews, even video interviews or audio interviews or whatever, and how that fosters making a decision about your users and how to best serve their needs or provide solution to their needs. While feature-driven development is a software development framework that focuses on advancing the capabilities of specific features of a product. This can be as simple as creating a more efficient login process of a product. It, it involved 5 steps, which are develop an overall model, build a feature list, plan by feature, design by feature, and build feature. Okay, so this is just trying to explain what a feature-driven development looks like, right? Um, it basically just has a focus on improving the capabilities of specific or particular features on a product or of a product, right? And it could be something as simple as creating a more efficient login process. So the thing is that a feature-driven development involves 5 steps, which will be to develop an overall model, right? And then build a feature list, then plan by feature. That means how much time you're allotting to particular features, for example, and who is going to work on that particular feature. And then the design for each of these features, and then build the feature. From, from the definition above, you will notice that user experience and FDD are two, and feature-driven development or FDD are two completely different um, aspects of product development. Nevertheless, user research, regardless of the method used, is what informs a product manager to carry out feature-driven development decisions. It also serves as a feedback to product design team. So, okay, so basically, user research and FDD are two different aspects. And even though user research is needed to reach certain decisions or to reach final decisions about feature-driven development, but they are not considered to be the same thing. They just um, they just flow together in a sense. Um, FDD could seem similar to Scrum methodology. However, they are distinct. FDD takes a more systemic approach to development process than Scrum, making each step more regulated and closely managed. The key differences between UX research and FDD. Um, the first one is the goal for both of them. For user research, the goal is to gather information, and then for FDD, the goal is to provide framework for building the product. Right? By framework is like providing the blueprint of how we want to go about building the product. Then emphasis for user research, the emphasis is on who and why. So, like who who is the product for and why? What is the need for the product? Why do they need the product? And then FDD is mainly evaluating the what and how. So is what feature is being built, and then how do you develop this feature? Application user research happens early on in the process and informs the entire design process. FDD is used FDD is used throughout the development cycle. Okay. Remember, FDD is also about focusing on the features of a product and how to make them better. So sometimes it would mean um, going over some decisions and then coming back to make a final decision and implement it on your feature, right? It's that's why it mentions here that it's like sometimes it's like Scrum methodology where you go and take feedback and then you build on the feedback you've received. Um, Similarities between UX research and FDD. Okay, so before we go on, uh, I'll have to, okay, first, I would like to remind everybody to fill out their attendance sheet. And then if there's an issue with your assignment, once you've dropped a message, don't worry. After the class, when I get a chance, I'll take a look at it and review it. I'll most likely leave a comment for you on the assignment itself. Um, with that said, I would like to take about 5 minutes break and come back, or let's make it 2 minutes break and come back. And if I do come back, I will give everybody 2 minutes to rejoin or to regroup as well. Um, See you guys in about 5 5 p.m. or 5:02 to be precise. Okay. Hi, everybody. We are back. Um, I hope everyone is back listening. Okay. Let's get back to it. The similarities between UX research and FDD. Uh, Remember, FDD is feature-driven development. Provides evidence that can be used to make informed decisions. User research findings can be valuable inputs for FDD. So basically, FDD can use what the results of a user research to make decisions, right? To make valuable decisions about the, the development process that it's going through and what works best for the process. And then by understanding user needs, By understanding user needs, developers using FDD can prioritize features and ensure that they are building something users would actually find useful, right? And part of what user research does for you is that it creates a very good understanding of user needs, right? It gets feedback from users, directly from users, either through surveys or interviews or social listening and the likes of it. And the benefit of that is that you're able um to create products with with empathy for your users, or through understanding your users, you'll be able to create products that they would find useful and not just waste resources on a product. Everyday has some significant benefits, which includes focused scope, improved communication, early and frequent delivery, better project management, increased flexibility. Okay. Um, these are some of the benefits of FDD. Although it has some weaknesses such as complex process, takes a lot of resources and time. It is believed products created with FDD methods are often of high quality. So it's saying here that one of the weaknesses for FDD is that it takes up a lot of resources to continue to build per feature, right? Um, if we are building something in such a way that we are going feature by feature, we get one feature, we focus on it, we build, we iterate and come back and build again, um, and not collectively building our first or especially our MVP, like focusing on building all the features and everybody that is a part of the team building something that will make up the whole, like building different parts that will make up the whole product. If you're doing a focus on just one feature at a time, pouring resources into one feature and all that. First of all, I feel like there is a little bit of perfectionism that comes with that, which means that a lot of resources would go into trying to build a focused, a feature driven product. But at the same time, it also ensures quality of each feature, right? If we are focusing on each, like we are focusing on the product per feature, we focus on each feature at a time, the likelihood that you will make that any feature would underserve will be very low because there is pouring focus on one feature at a time means as much as it is resource intensive, it also means that a high quality for each feature that you are building. User research methods for product managers. There are several methods that product managers can use for user research. However, these methods can be divided into two approaches. As a product manager, you choose the best method to use in different product development stages and lifestyle. Two major approaches are: one, quantitative or qualitative approach. Qualitative methods collect and measure precise data or variables and test your hypothesis, whereas qualitative research, a subjective method, observes data by recording the opinion and reasons provided by the subjects. Okay, so with quantitative, you are more than likely going to have a theory, right? Your like your hypothesis, or have a theory you're working on, and you start to research on based off of that one statement, that one theory, and you find evidences to back it into a hypothesis, and then you start like you go further and further and all that. But when it's a qualitative research, the research is done in such a way that you observe or you record data based on the opinions of the subjects, or specific subjects or chosen subjects for your research. Attitudinal or behavioral approach. Behavioral approach methods gather data on what the subjects say, feel, think about the product, whereas, oh, okay, sorry. Attitudinal methods gather data on what the subjects say, feel, think about the product, whereas behavioral records what the subjects do and how they interact with the product. So, um, what people say and what they do could be two different things, right? I'll give you an instance. People people swear by OPay, right? OPay does a very quick transaction, and you would think this means that people would leave their money in OPay for savings or for investment purposes. But strangely, people are more than likely to save with Kuda than they are to save with OPay. People are also more likely to save with Money Point than they are to save with their OPay account. So what they put in their OPay accounts are petty cash, basically, that they can save, sorry, that they can spend easily. So while people, when they speak or when they talk about how their experience with OPay is and how they frequently use OPay, what you will observe is that these are the things that they are saying. You will also observe that they do frequently use OPay in reality, but then when you actually observe their response to OPay, for example, if there is a situation where they have to leave a huge amount of money in OPay, you will notice a distress in their demeanor where they are looking for solutions so that they can transfer that huge amount of money out of their OPay account to somewhere that they trust. And that's the difference between like observing or taking an attitudinal approach to research, or in behavioral approach. Um, the behavioral approach usually has a qualitative approach and includes using tools such as websites, analytics. It tracks clicks, page views, user journeys, and then A/B testing. It analyzes design variations. Okay, it gives analysis of design variations users interact with more. So, what A/B testing does for you is that it compares the responses, like within, like for your, if like two features you have or two designs you have. Um, what A/B testing will do for you is that it collects the response to each of these features and makes a comparison for you. Maybe there are two features that provide similar solutions. Maybe not, most likely not exactly the same solution, but similar solutions. Um, what happens is that it will collect the responses of your users to both of their designs, for example, and gives you feedback on like their response to it. And with that, usually you're able to tell um, which one you need to apply more in the future or which one you need to use more in the future. Usability testing. observes how users complete tasks, and identifies usability issues in their behavior. Okay. Eye tracking measures where users look on a screen to understand their visual attention. Um, then also the attitudinal approach would usually have a quantitative approach. Few examples would include Two examples would include user interviews. It explores user needs, motivations, and pain points through conversations. Yes. Focus groups, like we discussed in the past. It brings collective user feedback on perceptions and attitudes. Ethnographic studies. It observes users in their natural environment to understand their context and thought process behind their actions. Surveys, which is something that is very popular. We share surveys. Sometimes we share actual paper surveys, or we share online surveys, which is now more popular in recent years. Building user personas. I think we are already familiar with what user persona is. In UX, user persona represents the end users and is typically done after user and market research has been conducted. In product management, it is not mandatory for user personas, or it is not mandatory to build user personas for users. However, if you find yourself functioning as a user researcher, or if your role demands it, learning how to build one is beneficial. With user persona, you can focus on features that address user needs and challenges, like short workout routines or integration with a busy schedule. There are two main elements of a user persona, and they are the heading, the demographic details. The heading and the demographic details. So, um, let me explain. I'm not really sure this definition we have here, or this write up we have here, fully explain what a user persona is. Remember, user persona like comes from the assumptions we make about our users, right? We make assumptions about how they would respond to our product, or what demographic they fall under. For example, we if you are creating a tracker, right? Like a health tracker, a workout tracker, or something on the phone, and you want to record heartbeat, you want to record blood pressure, you want to record maybe feeding if the person is open to it or something. You want to record walks, you want to record workouts. Um, you start asking yourself, who is likely to use our product? That's where that comes from. Who is likely to use our product? So, um, first of all, the first thing is that this person will be willing to use your product. But then, how do you group them? You start thinking of, we could have students, we could have or you could take it out of that, or you just start thinking about their workout behaviors, right? Because how you record heart rate is movement, right? The movement of a person. If I'm holding my phone and I'm taking a walk, my phone will record how many steps that I have covered, or how many miles, or the distance I have covered. Um, if Samsung was trying to do an analysis with their Samsung Health app, or if iPhone is tracking me through an iWatch, they would want to group me into different, or group a potential user into different groups. They would think about who who takes walks more frequently, who needs to take walks anyways, who is healthy enough to take walks, what age group, and then you talk about what those people do for a living that gives them the room to take walks every day. And then you talk about potential health problems that forces people to take walks. This is how you start imagining and making assumptions about your users. That's how you start to create user personas, right? Um, so building user persona elements, the heading, fictional name to remember the person, a fictional image, this is optional, a statement that summarizes your persona preference with your product, or your persona's preference with your product. Okay, so when you're building a persona, like when you're documenting personas, the heading should first have a name. You When we say have a name, the it might not be the name of like an actual name. It is most likely going to be more of a title than it would be a personal name. Like it will more than likely be a title rather than say Joshua or Adese or Ifeolu or something like that. It will more likely be the working class. It will more than likely be um, minorities or indigenous people, or it could be black individuals that are from African heritage. Um, it could also be something like product managers, or it could also be product managers, product designers, developers, right? More than it is going to likely fall under an actual name. A fictional image, you could create a fictional image. There are some there are some products that if you're developing them, you would need an actual image. It sounds strange, but it covers, especially if the product is something that covers a particular part of the body, and you're trying to fit it into certain body shapes, for example, things like that. Those details would be needed and might then demand that you create an actual image for them. A statement that summarizes your personal's preference for with your products, right? If it's a tracking app on the phone or workout tracking app, it could be a statement that says for the what do you call them? I don't want to say old people. Um, for the gentric, I think that's the word. You might just say they need it is usually recommended that they take walks and they have the time. They're not like being retirees. They have the time and the space, and usually can afford to take walks in the evening or to take early morning walks, for example. That could be your statement. And here is the demographic. Details would comprise of personal backgrounds such as age, gender, ethnicity, um, education, marital status, and then professional backgrounds such as income level and occupation, environments such as physical location, social environment, and technological environment. Then psychographics such as attitudes, interests, pain points, and motivation. So, okay, I'm going to say this. Your assignments would most likely come from building a user persona. It sounds interesting to do. And let's not forget, when I say that your user persona would more than likely not have an actual name, um, for me, I've never created a user persona that has a name, like the name of a person, but it would have a title, right? A title that captures their response to my product. This doesn't stop you from naming your persona. It's up to you. But what I'm just saying is that sometimes when you name them, like it feels like it takes away from the focus of what you are doing. And then, but when you give them titles, right? If you say the geriatric, um, and you're talking about a health tracking app, just saying the geriatrics covers an entire group of people, an entire group of retirees that are no longer young, no longer work, which means they have time, right? And they need to walk. Like they are forced to do physical exercises and they can't do much. So what they will be doing is walking, which is how where your app comes in for them. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. You can choose to give a name, but what I'm saying is it is usually more practical to just not to just do a title that is more relational to your products that you're supposed to be offering them. That's basically it. Okay, now let's build an example user persona for our Netflix example. Okay, since user personas are built based on information already gathered from customer interviews, we will highlight what we know about Netflix users and catalog those information according to the elements discussed in the previous chapter. Netflix users. Netflix has a broad range of users, but for this course, we will focus on just one segment, young tech-savvy adult users. Note the information used to build the customer persona is information gathered from user research and PRD. So we have Amanda. Amanda would signify most likely that this person will be a female. But let's read customer statement or assumption as a user. Okay, I don't know. We remember doing this as a user. I want to be able to do this when I do this. I think we remember doing that during our user need, our trying to discussion on user needs, right, and how to build user story. So this is a user story. As a user, I want to be able to readily access movie contents from the comfort of my home, right? This is a user story. And then demographic information, the age, 25, the gender, because we're talking about young, remember here we said we'll be looking at young tech savvy adult user. So this would either fall into a millennial or a Gen Zer. So the age will be 25, the gender will be female because we already have the name Amanda, right? And the occupation will be, okay, we said tech savvy, so it will most likely be something that allows someone function in the tech space or just be able to have conversation about the tech space. So graphic designer makes sense. And then um, the relationship status single, location Lagos, education a graduate, of course. By 25, you should be a graduate. Not that it's bad if you're not, but the general consensus is that by 25 you're a graduate. Pain points um, being what are the concerns for Amanda when using your product. Amanda finds it inconvenient to leave their home, or when like, sorry, what is the need from for Amanda that you should be solving for Amanda? Amanda finds it inconvenient to leave their homes just to go rent a movie. The solution, Amanda would like a movie service that would allow her watch a movie from the comfort of her home. So now let's look at this again. We have our user story. The user story for Amanda is that she, as a user, she wants to be able to do what um, and how. So who is the person? What do they want to do, and how do they want to achieve it? So as a user, I want to be able to access movies or movie contents from the comfort of my home. What is her demographic? She is a young person from either a Gen Z to a millennial, and then she's female because we've chosen a female name, and she's also in the tech space, making her essentially tech savvy. And her relationship status is that she's single. The reason her being a single person might be helpful to you is that most times people that are in relationships like they don't need so much, like for example, comfort food, comfort movies, comfort series, right? Like that's the likely thing. I don't know, maybe that's not how relationships work in Nigeria, but like this is the general consensus that if you're in a relationship and you're in love, you spend more time with the person that you're in love with and less time doing personal stuff or alone stuff, basically. So that's why the relationship status comes up. And your location, of course, your location will also tell you the type of movies to recommend or content to recommend as well. Education level would also help inform what the occupation should be, which is that the person is a graduate. So, and then the pain points is what is the problem that Amanda is facing that could possibly lead them to needing your product. So, her problem is that she doesn't like the idea of having to leave her house to get a movie, either always having to go to a cinema or having to rent a movie or having to look for ways or like pirated sites to download a movie, for example. And then the solution will be that she would like a service that just provides her with varieties and genres of movies that she can select from the comfort of her home or her couch, right? Metrics for measuring user experience. Simply put, user experience metrics is the measurement of how people engage with the products and services, the products and services businesses provide. Okay, so the user experience metrics is just taking data on or information on how people experience or interact with the products and services being provided by a business. You have to use the metrics toolbox to confirm the success of your user experience. User experience metrics can be grouped into two major aspects. They are the engagement and usability metrics and the satisfaction and sentiment metrics. I know you guys remember the metrics types that we talked about, right? The monetization metrics and the rest, right? The engagement, the retention, and all that and all that. So this is just listing here what metrics are more in tune with user experience, right? So it says here that it can be grouped into two major aspects. There could be many, like if you're not grouping them into two, you have a lot of it. But to just group them properly, engagement and usability, satisfaction and sentiment, right? One, engagement and usability metrics, as the name states, it checks the extent to which users use and engage with your product. Um, Reports for this can be automated to enable easy access and organization. It is usually categorized into four. I think I should repeat that. Engagement and usability metrics, as the name states, checks the extent to which your users use and engage with your product. The reports for this can be automated, like it can be built in such a way that you get automated information on the engagement and usability of your users for your product, or you could ask always do like you could do a routine request for this report and it will be sent to you or to the team or yeah, or whomever is in charge to receive this information or metrics or data. It's usually got categorized into four. We have the completion or success metrics to check if users were able to complete tasks effectively without encountering any problem or breach. Okay, so the success rate would be or completion rate would be a metrics for a particular feature. If we say that this feature is to share receipts for a transfer, um, one of the things that will be smart to measure or take note of is the rate at which people are able to completely share the receipt of their transaction or the receipt of the transfer they've made. Duration metrics, this involves tracking the average time users spend on a screen, how long it took them to perform a task. It reveals how users were able to navigate and interact with your products per session. Okay, so this could also let you know if your users are struggling with a particular feature as well, or it could also let you know how easy they find it to use a particular feature. Error metrics. This is different from a bug or technical error. It measures users' action on the product that did not lead them to their expected solutions. Okay. Um, how often this is supposed to measure how often your users encounter problems and make errors, like in the process of um, trying to use a feature to perform a task with your product, right? And this is definitely different from a bug. A bug is something that is technically wrong with the process, but this one is the error, human error that occurs because someone clicked on the wrong thing or they got confused in the process and all that. This helps you with understanding, by the way, the clarity of your interface, your UI, how clear it is to users. Session duration and frequency. This measures how long users stay engaged with your product and how often they return. They can indicate they can indicate user satisfaction and overall stickiness. Okay, so how long your users remain with you or remain with a page on your product, and you're able to confirm that it is not carrying out the task but just that they are intrigued by what they see and they start clicking on many things. It helps you find out like the satisfaction level, as well as the stickiness, like how they are able to stick with you as users. Satisfaction and sentiment metrics. So after, remember that after the engagement and usability metrics, which under it we have viewed the completion or success rate metrics, duration metrics, error metrics, and session duration and frequency, right? Now we are going all the way back to satisfaction and sentiment metrics. This is the second metric, second major metric for user experience. This seeks to reveal to the seeks to reveal the extent to which customers perceive your product, to perceive that your product met their needs, and also the areas or features they desire to be added, removed, or improved on. For example, some of those will be your customer satisfaction score. The assessment user happy this assesses user happiness with specific aspects of the product experience. So if you create a survey, a quick survey that allows people to rate you or rate their experience with your product, it needs to be quick. Number one, you need to remember that nobody wants to give their time to something that doesn't benefit them. So you need, if you're going to do a pop-up for rate us, it needs to be something that is just one click away and the satisfaction level has been recorded, so that you could collect this data and find out how happy or how dissatisfied your customers are. System usability scale. Provide a standardized score on how easy and efficient users find your product to be. Net promoter score. Um, it measures user loyalty and likelihood to recommend your product to others. A high NPS indicates a positive user experience. Okay, so if the score um, for your net promoter indicates that people are likely to promote you or advertise your services or your product to people, then it means that you're on the right track, and whatever you're doing is impressing your existing users and can bring you more users. Customer effort score, to evaluate the ease with which users achieve their goals within your product. A low, a low CES reflects a smooth and effortless UX. Okay, so with this, with customer effort score, it means that most things are easy to get done and easily accessible to your users. They find it easy to use or simplistic, positively simplistic to use your product, and less effort needed to accomplish tasks. Um, Please give me a second. I need to drink water. Okay, moving on. Communicating UX to stakeholders. I do hope everybody remembers who your stakeholders are. They are people that your product decisions influence or affect um, their work just internally. And then, generally speaking, your stakeholders are people that um, have an effect on your product development process. They they could be your entire product development team, or they could be your investors, or they could be your customers, or they could be your competition. At the end of the day, their behaviors or their responses to you have some level of effect on your product development process or your product itself. Those are your stakeholders. Communicating UX to stakeholders, sometimes it can be tricky to communicate the need for a specific design direction to business executives or any stakeholder who doesn't understand the significance of good UX. There is a way around that. Here is a few tips to achieve your desired results as a product manager. So, it's important to remember that when you are um, having collaborative meetings or meetings to foster collaboration between your team and other teams, something that you might experience is someone that doesn't really have a good understanding of what it is that you're trying to convey, and they might not ask questions immediately. Even they might wait until we are at the point of designing and at the point of starting to build, and then they ask you why something has to be a certain way because they know that a different way works already, and then you have to start explaining from like you feel like you're having to teach someone that should understand, and not everybody in the tech space would understand everything. That's just how it is. So these are just tips on how to achieve your desired influence on a stakeholder, right? Remember, as a product manager, you're supposed to lead by influencing, not authoritatively. So, number one is focus on business impact. You have to elaborate or paint a good picture of the effect of a smoother process or a smoother experience for your customers would have on your app or your product business wise. So if you have smooth experiences, if your users have smooth experiences using your product, then they will most likely return, they will most likely be retained, they will most likely be engaged, and they will most likely refer you to others, right? Um, with that, your goal is mainly to now paint this particular UX decision as the best of all the options that you could possibly have or you have. Numbers can defend your claim. You could always back up your claim with data, and you could back it up with data of existing um, like firms or products that already used the design that you're trying to use, or similar designs and the effect that it has, or people that did the opposite and the bad effect that it had on their product or their ability to gain users. Keep it simple. Avoid jargons, especially when you're dealing with someone that is already struggling with understanding what is being said in meetings or what you've been explaining all along. They do not need extra jargons from you. Um, and the more jargons you throw at them, they would feel more so like you're trying to show off than you're trying to inform them, right? And that is not your goal. Your goal is that you want everyone to be on board. You want to influence everyone to be motivated to get on this journey with you, basically, and be on your side for this journey. So you need to keep it simple. Use real words that people or regular people can understand and follow through with. User stories and pain points. Tell compelling stories about real users struggling with the current UX. Okay, so especially when you have an existing product and you have an existing feature, you're trying to fix the UX, you're trying to change things, and you're having one stakeholder, you're having one major stakeholder that won't get on board with it, and they are trying to say things like, if something isn't spoiled, don't fix it. If something functions, don't try to fix it. Remember, your goal is to just say, this is the story, like this is the user story, and this is the pain point. This is why, and they need a solution from us. You need to be able to tell that story in such a way that it feels real and it sounds like there is a real problem that needs the solution that you are offering, the way that you are offering it. Because, of course, the product in itself exists because it's offering a solution. But why does it have to be the way that you are suggesting as a product manager? Why does it have to be the way that you are, the route that you are going as a product manager? That's what you need to convey in your message. Mockups and prototypes. A picture or interactive prototype is worth 1,000 words. Showcase how the UX changes will look and feel. Let them virtually experience the improvements. Okay. Something you can do is create um, a test, like a presentation that or a mock-up. Yeah, it's called a mock-up that presents your prototype to stakeholders. It reduces questions like by a lot of percentage. Um, it allows people to see what you see and to see the dream for that particular feature or product, and hence reduces questions, like I said, or doubts. Um, Frame it as a collaboration. Don't present UX as an afterthought. Position it as a collaborative effort that improves the overall product and drives success. Again, this is why we always say that product management is a very strategic role rather than an active role. It is more a mind game. It is more a role that requires the engagement of the brain to make decisions, to influence decisions and all that. So here, when you're framing, a thought for a design to stakeholders that could change the direction of your development process, what you need to do is to present it as like to present a new decision as a collaboration, right? Especially if you've gotten other teams on board, you're trying to present it as, we came to this decision because this and this team experienced this, and then there was this feedback from the CX team, and then there was this feedback from an interview or a social listening, and then with all of those things we found that even our competitors don't do this, and that is why they don't have this, or our competitors do this and that's why they don't experience this problem that we do, and therefore we are going to go that direction because it's working for someone else, and they share certain similarities with us, and we believe it will work for us, and each of the teams do believe the same thing as well. So it's the need to paint a picture of collaboration versus a personally made choice. Be open to feedback. Shareholders might have valuable insights. Listen to their concerns and address them in your UX plan. So remember, as a product manager, prioritization and making decisions is like what you eat and drink every day. Everybody will come to you with an idea um, of what the product should look like, especially when we're talking about design. And without a full, like, mind you, people that are saying these things most likely don't have a full understanding of your user research or the results of your user research, the resources are available to you, and just the behavior of your users and their responses. So it's now up to you to let people know as they are suggesting that this will be taken into consideration, and genuinely take their suggestions into consideration. Don't just brush them aside, because a lot of times a lot of inspiration could come from advices or could come from suggestions from stakeholders. Um, Celebrate wins together. When UX improvements lead to positive outcomes, share the success. Like I always say, don't ever hoard information, especially when it could impact the motivation level, the resources, um, the inspiration to continue, and all that. Do not hoard this information and try to use it to play game. Provide information as needed, and where it improves ability to work or work on the solution that you already work on more effectively. Something like wins, ensure that it is out there in the open, and everybody that has worked on this project or this particular product is able to hear it, that their efforts are being celebrated, right? Like, it's very important for motivation. So on a final note, UX metrics are valuable tools, but they shouldn't be your sole focus. Use them alongside qualitative user research like usability testing to gain a deeper understanding of user pain points and opportunity for improvement. These used together will help you create a product that users love to use. Remember, a well-designed UX is an investment, not an expense. Okay, Com- communicate its value effectively and what your products are. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Um, Let me do a light recap of what we've discussed so far. So far, we've discussed introduction to UI UX design, the importance of UI design tools like Figma, Adobe, Adobe Design, right? Adobe Illustration. I don't remember which one it is, and there is the importance of those tools and how handy they come in for collaboration and presenting screens to teams and all that, or to stakeholders. Um, we talked about the importance of Figma and how the reason it is the most popular in the market, right? We talked about how collaborative it is or how communicative it is and how you can interact with it and tag people and ask questions about certain designs or certain features in the design screens. User research methods versus feature driven development. Okay, so it's the user research method versus the FDD. The user research methods for product managers, building user persona, where we talked about there has to be a name or a title, and then other descriptions or demographic descriptions of the person that could help you understand their response or their assumed response to a product. Um, what's the other thing? Metrics for measuring user experience, then the communicating UX to stakeholders, especially when you are experiencing a less informed stakeholder whom you would need to like basically hold your hands through the understanding of the whys and the hows of choosing a particular design, for example. So uh, that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Um, Given how extensive this lesson is, I will not be taking questions about it today. You can prepare your questions and hold it until tomorrow. We'll most likely take questions tomorrow. If I'm not able to log into my Figma, it might just be an assignment for you to demonstrate to you how to navigate Figma and how screens are presented. You may have to do a research on your own and provide me with proof, but let's see how it goes, what your final assignments will become as we go. And this is the end of today's class. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today again and showing up for yourself and your knowledge and your learning today. And thank you, Joshua, for assisting again today. We appreciate you. And congratulations to the winner that was just posted a few hours ago. Um, this is to say that we do go far and beyond to observe the efforts that everybody puts into being a part of this program. And we recognize that it is not an easy feat to combine this with just your daily lives and maybe try to do researches to complete an assignment or whatever it is in any way that you're showing up in, for yourself and for your learning. We see you and we appreciate you and we encourage you to remain on the path that you are on. And thank you, everyone, once again, and have a great evening.